Hello and welcome back to the Deep Dive. We are looking at the calendar, and it is Saturday, January 24th, 2026. That puts us right on the doorstep of the third Sunday in ordinary time. And, I have to say, looking at the stack of readings we have, I always chuckle a bit at that name, ordinary time.
Yeah, it does sound so beige, doesn't it?
Right. Like we're just marking time until the next big thing.
It definitely has that nothing to see here vibe. But, ordinary in the liturgical sense is actually a bit of a translation quirk.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it comes from the word ordinal, which just means, counted, numbered days. So it's not about the content being boring. It's just about the sequence.
Okay, so it's about order, not mediocrity. That makes sense.
Exactly.
Because honestly, if you look at the source material we're diving into today, ordinary is probably the last word I would use.
Oh, for sure.
We're dealing with geopolitical trauma, radical life changes, and some pretty serious infighting.
It is a volatile mix. There's this distinct tension running through all the sources today. It's almost like a tug of war.
A tug of war.
How so? Well, on one side, you have this heavy, suffocating gloom, and I mean real historical darkness, and on the other, a sudden, almost blinding light.
And then there's another one too, right? More on the social level. This pull between, say, division.
Yeah, people fracturing into little cliques.
And this desperate need for unity.
That's the narrative arc we need to trace. Our mission today is really to thread those needles. We're going to connect an ancient prophecy from Isaiah.
Chapters 8 and 9.
Right, and connect it directly to this pivotal moment in Matthew chapter 4. And then we're going to layer in a letter from Paul to the Corinthians to see what happens when that light when it gets refracted by human ego.
It's a full stack. We've got Isaiah, Psalm 27, 1 Corinthians. Yes, I'll admit, when I first saw the names Zebulun and Naphtali in the notes, my eyes just glazed over.
I get that. Sounds like a bad fantasy novel duo.
Or a defunct law firm. But I dug into the background of these places, and it turns out understanding where this is on the map is actually the key to unlocking the whole vibe of this Sunday.
It really is. You can't understand the light unless you understand the darkness of that specific piece of real estate.
So let's set the scene. Isaiah 8 and 9. The text starts off pretty rough. It says, "First the Lord degraded the land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali."
And degraded is such a strong word.
It is.
And to really get the weight of that, we have to look at the history books around, 732 BC. This wasn't just, border trouble or a bad economy.
Right.
This was the Assyrian Emperor Tiglath-Pileser III.
Which, by the way, sounds like a sci-fi villain.
I know, right? But he effectively he wiped these tribes right off the map.
I was reading about this. This region is the northern part of Israel. Yeah. The area around the Sea of Galilee.
Correct. It's the seaward road, often called the District of the Gentiles.
Why Gentiles?
Because it was on the northern border, so it was basically the doormat for every invading army. When the Assyrians came down, they didn't just conquer it. They dismantled it. They deported the Jewish population and imported pagan tribes just to erase the local identity.
So when Isaiah talks about gloom, anguish, and darkness, he's not just being poetic.
No.
He's not talking about a bad mood. This is a multi-century identity crisis.
Exactly. It's cultural trauma. The text mentions a yoke that burdened them and the rod of their taskmaster. I mean, that is the language of slavery and occupation.
Wow.
For hundreds of years, if you lived in Zebulun or Naphtali, you were basically the flyover country of the ancient world. You were looked down on by the elites in Jerusalem because you were mixed, you were impure, and you were conquered.
Which makes the connection to the Gospel of Matthew absolutely wild. This was the aha moment for me.
Yes.
In Matthew 4, we find Jesus at this crossroads. He hears that his cousin, John the Baptist, has been arrested.
Right, which is a signal. The authorities are cracking down. It's dangerous.
A very tense political moment.
For sure.
And what does Jesus do? He doesn't go to Jerusalem, the center of power. He doesn't go hide in the desert. Matthew says he withdraws specifically to this region.
To Capernaum, by the sea, in the region of Zebulun and Naphtali.
He walks right into the blast zone.
He goes to the District of the Gentiles. And Matthew is so deliberate about this. He quotes that Isaiah passage explicitly.
The people who walk in darkness have seen a great light.
It's just a complete reversal. The text describes this transformation from the shadow of death to a great light.
And the joy Isaiah describes. It's so visceral. He compares it to the joy of harvest or dividing spoils.
That phrase, dividing spoils, is fascinating, isn't it? It's the relief and the celebration after a battle is won. It implies that the gloom has actually been defeated.
The thing that really sticks with me is the location of the light. We usually expect the light to show up in the perfect, shiny center of things, the cathedral, the palace, the capital city.
Right.
But here, the light dawns in the land of gloom.
It's a profound point. God doesn't wait for things to be perfect to show up. He shows up in the place that's been trampled. I mean, if you're a listener who feels like you're in a Zebulun situation, a place of confusion or failure or just exhaustion, this text is saying that's exactly where the story starts.
I love that. The light doesn't require clean room to enter.
Right.
And this is where the rubber meets the road?
Yeah.
The light does require a response. It's not just a passive, oh, look, it's bright now.
No, the arrival of the light disrupts everything.
Okay, let's move to that second part of Matthew 4 and that reflection source we have. Jesus arrives in this gloomy region. The light switches on, and his first move isn't, to hand out blankets. It's a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
He begins to preach, repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand.
And repent is one of those words that's loaded with a lot of guilt, but literally it just means to change your mind, to turn around.
An orientation shift.
That's a great way to put it.
And he doesn't do this alone. We get this narrative of him walking by the Sea of Galilee, which, again, is that same seaward road Isaiah talked about. He sees two brothers, Simon Peter and Andrew.
Right.
And I want to slow down here because the details really matter. The text says they were casting a net into the sea.
Which implies they were in the middle of the action. They were working.
Then he walks a bit further and sees two other brothers, James and John, the sons of Zebedee. And they're in a boat with their dad, mending their nets.
So two different stages of the work. Casting is the active attempt to catch. Mending is the preparation, the maintenance, both essential.
But what stands out to me, and the reflection piece highlights this, is who he's talking to.
Ordinary fishermen.
Yeah.
He didn't go to the rabbinical schools in Jerusalem to find the top theology students. He didn't go to the palace to find administrators. As the reflection notes, this kind of proves God chooses willing hearts rather than perfect qualifications.
Willing hearts rather than perfect qualifications. That's a bumper sticker worth having.
Totally.
But let's talk about the cost of that willingness.
Yeah.
Because I think we read this story way too quickly. We see they left their nets, and we think, oh, they just quit their hobby.
It was not a hobby.
No, these were small business owners. That boat, that's capital equipment. That's a mortgage. Those nets were expensive.
And for James and John, they didn't just leave the gear. The text says they left their boat and their father.
That detail about the father, Zebedee, is the one that always stops me in my tracks.
It's huge. In the first century, the family unit it was everything. Your economic survival, your social security, your whole identity.
You didn't just walk away from the patriarch.
No. Leaving Zebedee in the boat wasn't just a career change. It was a social scandal. It was a rupture.
It just emphasizes the radical nature of this light. When it shows up, it's magnetic, but it's also disruptive. It demands a break.
And the timing in the text is relentless.
For Simon and Andrew, it says at once they left their nets. For James and John, immediately.
There's no hesitation. There's no, let me check my calendar, or can we discuss the salary package?
Right.
It suggests this overwhelming propulsion. They saw something in Jesus in that light that made the boat seem suddenly insignificant.
And the mission shift he offers them is just brilliant. He says, I will make you fishers of men.
He's meeting them exactly where they are. He doesn't say, I will make you scholars. He takes their existing skill set, patience, reading conditions, working together, and he pivots it toward a kingdom purpose.
And Matthew notes that after this recruitment drive, Jesus went around all of Galilee, teaching and curing every disease and illness.
So the reflection source is right. This kingdom is rooted in compassion. It's healing the trauma of that land of gloom we started with.
So you have this beautiful picture of unity. A group of guys, different backgrounds, leaving everything to follow one mission, bringing light to a dark place.
It's the ideal.
But you fast forward about 20 years, and you see what happens when humans get involved in the management of that light.
Enter the Corinthians.
Yes. Let's open up 1 Corinthians 1.
Yeah.
If Matthew is the honeymoon phase, Corinth is. Well, it's the messy divorce hearing.
That's a good way to put it. The contrast is jarring.
You go from immediately they followed him to bickering.
It's worse than bickering. It's factionalism. Paul is writing to this church he founded, and he sounds like an exhausted parent. He says, I urge you that there be no divisions among you.
And the reason he's writing is because the gossip has reached him. The text says it was reported by Chloe's people that there are rivalries.
Chloe's people, the whistleblowers, and the nature of this rivalry is so modern it hurts.
It's personality cults.
Exactly.
Listen to the slogans they were shouting. I belong to Paul. I belong to Apollos. I belong to Cephas.
And then the really self-righteous ones. I belong to Christ. As if that makes them better.
They were treating the apostles like sports teams or rival philosophers. I'm Team Paul.
Well, I'm Team Apollos. And to get this, you have to understand Corinth. This was a city that valued rhetoric. They loved a good debate. They treated public speakers like rock stars.
Okay, that explains Paul's comment about human eloquence. I always found that line a bit confusing. Paul writes that Christ sent him to preach the gospel, and not with the wisdom of human eloquence. Why is he taking a shot at eloquence? Isn't being a good speaker a good thing?
It is, but here's the context. Apollos, who's mentioned as one of the rival leaders, was known for being an incredibly polished, dynamic orator. He was the golden boy of rhetoric.
Hey, Paul.
Paul admitted himself that his physical presence was weak and his speech was sometimes unimpressive.
So the Corinthians, being who they were, naturally gravitated toward the smooth talker.
Exactly. They were judging the truth of the message by the style of the delivery. Paul is calling that out. He's saying, if I win you over just because I'm clever or I use fancy tricks, then your faith is based on my talent, not on God's power.
He says he avoids it so that the cross of Christ might not be emptied of its meaning. That's a heavy statement. He's saying that turning the gospel into a TED Talk competition actually empties it of power.
Because the cross is about humility and sacrifice, not about who has the best vocabulary.
So what does he do?
Paul asks these shocking questions to snap them out of it. Is Christ divided? Was Paul crucified for you? He's trying to get them to see how absurd their celebrity worship is.
It's a pretty stark warning about how quickly we can take the light, which is for everyone, and just fracture it into little pieces that we can own and control. My group, my preacher, my theology.
And when we do that, we end up right back in the gloom. Division is just another form of darkness.
So we have the light entering the gloom in Isaiah and Matthew. We have the call to drop our nets and follow that light. And we have the warning from Corinth about not letting our egos fracture that light.
Right.
That leaves us with the individual. How do I navigate all of this?
And that brings us to the internal posture. For that, we have Psalm 27.
This is one of those greatest hits of the Psalter. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom should I fear?
It's the perfect antidote to the anxiety of the land of gloom. Remember, Zebulun was a place of fear of invasion, fear of oppression.
So the psalmist is saying, if the light is here, the fear has to go.
Exactly. But there's a specific request in the psalm that I think connects everything we've talked about. The psalmist says, one thing I ask of the Lord, this I seek.
To dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life.
The one thing. That singular focus just cuts through all the noise. In Corinth, they wanted many things. Status, the best teacher, the right clique.
To be right in the argument.
Right. The fishermen in the boat probably wanted a good catch, a stable market price, maybe a new boat. But the psalmist boils it all down to one thing, presence, just dwelling with the divine.
And that connects to the reflection piece, doesn't it?
It does. The reflection takes the psalm's advice. Wait for the Lord with courage, be stout-hearted. And it asks us to make a move. It poses the question, what concrete step can I take today to follow Jesus more faithfully?
It bridges the gap between the internal courage of the psalm and the physical action of the fisherman. Because you can't just dwell in your head. Eventually, you have to get out of the boat.
That's the synthesis of the whole stack.
So let's recap the arc here, because it's quite a journey. We start with the reality of the world. There are dark places, places of gloom, shadow, historical trauma. That's Isaiah.
Right. But God doesn't avoid those places. The light specifically targets the land of gloom. That's Matthew.
And when that light hits, it demands a response. You can't just admire it. You have to drop the nets.
You have to be willing to leave the safety of the boat and the Father.
But as you follow, you have to be vigilant. You have to guard against that Corinthian temptation to turn the mission into a popularity contest or a factional war.
You have to keep the main thing the main thing.
And that requires the courage and the singular focus we found in Psalm 27, the Lord is my light.
It all comes back to that willing heart.
I can't stop thinking about that moment on the shore, though. The boat, the nets, the Father. It's such a distinct image of leaving behind security for something unknown, but better.
It is. And we all have a boat.
That's the provocative thought I want to leave our listeners with today. The source material emphasizes leaving behind whatever keeps me from following fully. For James and John, the net and the boat were their livelihood. For the Corinthians, their net was their intellectual pride and their cliques.
So the question is personal.
Exactly. As you go about your Saturday or whenever you're listening to this, maybe ask yourself, what is the net or the boat that is currently keeping you specifically from making merry in the light? What are you holding on to? Maybe a grudge, maybe a specific plan for your life, maybe just your comfort zone, that if you just dropped it would let you walk out of the land of gloom.
A tough question, but a necessary one.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. We'll see you next time.